So today I'm happy to introduce Tony Stierwalt and Jenna presenting Non-GMO, We Do It for the Money. Tony is a fifth-generation farmer from southern Champaign County growing corn, soybeans, and wheat. His family has been long believers in no-till and strip-till and has implemented cover crops over the last 5 years. Stierwalt has a passion for soil health and cover crops. He attended Parkland College to study ag business and is married to his wife, Tracy, and they have 3 children, Wyatt, Louisa, and Ruth. Jenna, along with her husband Michael, live on their family-operated farm, Seavers Farm, in Vermilion County. Jenna has grown up around agriculture in Sangamon County and been actively involved in Illinois Farm Bureau through Young Leaders. She has worked 6 years in the grain industry in several different capacities, including advisory and origination. She graduated in 2015 with a bachelor's degree in agricultural consumer economics from the University of Illinois. In her spare time, Jenna enjoys raising Black Angus cattle and selling 100% of their beef consumer direct. Please help me welcome Tony and Jenna to the Soybean Summit.
Good afternoon. How are you guys today? Have you ever had your picture this big on a screen and kind of just felt awkward about it? That's where we're at. So my name is Jenna Seavers. I currently reside in Vermilion County with my husband Michael and his family on the family farm of Seavers Farm, originally from Sangamon County, and had the opportunity to also grow up on a soy, corn, and beef operation in Sangamon County. So very blessed to have farm on both sides. For my full-time job, I am in grain origination and grain marketing. Has anybody looked at the soybean markets lately? Yeah, very exciting here lately. So my morning was a little busy with a few phone calls. I think we ended up 35. I do have a little bit of a grain marketing update at the end, just because that is my forte, and soybean markets are a lot of fun right now. So in my spare time, I also raise cattle and am involved in Illinois Farm Bureau. So that is our operation at the bottom that we are in with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. So, Tony?
I'm Tony Stierwalt, down southern Champaign County. I will start in the beginning. Jenna is way more professional than I am. So I will get that out of the way now. Yes, fifth generation farmer. I farm with my dad. Corn, soybeans, wheat, pretty standard for our neck of the woods. Those are my 3 kids there that like to bring me lunch during harvest. So it's always a good when they come to join. So let's see what's next.
So we're going to kind of get started and tell you about why we grow non-GMO, some learnings that we've had from it, and then also some opportunities that we are aware of that we would like to share with you. So financials, comparable costs, things like that. Some of the financials, of course, are not always super exciting looking at numbers, but it's definitely something we want to go over. And then Tony, being the cover crop enthusiast he's going to definitely dive into that with you. And then again, close with those opportunities and a little bit of grain market update.
Okay, so here's what I had for last year, the financials. As you can see, E3 versus non-GMO. Don't have to get very far into it when you get the premium involved, just to see where the profits and loss lie. Even with a little higher seed costs and I put out 60 pounds to the acre of cereal rye, higher seed costs and higher chemical. Even with that premium goes a long way, and nowadays the non-GMO beans just yield as good, if not better, than the E3 lineup, even though we're not, companies aren't rolling out new non-GMO beans every year. You can see that it works. It works if you can manage the typical seasons where maybe some weeds get away from you, and we got to do the best we can, and we'll get into a little bit with hopefully maybe some cover crop side helping with that.
And we are using $1.40 as a premium in 21. 22 premiums did go up at pretty much all locations that I could find that offer a non-GMO program. So premiums are a little bit higher in 22. I believe we're using 160 here.
165.
165. I know of opportunities that go up to 205, 210. I know ADM has a program that's based on premium or by percentages, and you lock that in once. So there are opportunities to get more of a premium certain locations. So for 22, I think we're all aware that cost of production is higher. due to a few different things, including fertilizer. If you can get your hands on a lot at a better price, I think guys have got that done. Still showing that you have the opportunity to make more money with very similar time commitments on non-GMO as you would have on a chemical bean, is what I usually can
Right.
call
We
it.
discussed, what are we calling them?
Yeah, because we
Chemical
still use
beans?
chemicals on non-GMO, so it's a little confusing, but I usually, any kind of a chemical bean, when looking at different numbers, we still found that non-GMO yielding similar still provided a better financial outlook.
Another thing, we'll get into some non-GMO locations later, but when she was discussing different premiums, I know like Clarkson Grain and Mattoon, there are opportunities basically that's got to get in early, but like seed beans with a much higher premium, it's not, they don't typically yield as well, but I mean, I've seen up to, I think it was $2.80 premium just to try something new, basically, and get in on that market, so just another thing we'll get into for different non-GMO locations. This is some data I pulled just for this upcoming year. Full treated for conventional, as you can see, we are significantly less. And by company, it obviously can change. This is just one company that I went with. You can get anywhere, obviously. The nonstop seed game of discounts, as everybody knows, is a real treat. So who knows where you'll end up. But as you can see, it is significantly less just going the conventional route versus the full slate. So some of the stuff we'll talk about with cover crops, it's not just towards non-GMO. It obviously, I feel at a high enough rate, you are getting the benefits from weed suppression, that route. But like this was before we got the 6.5 inches of rain. It obviously didn't end up being a huge deal, but we were pretty hot and dry early in the season. Took a temp gun out. This was after cover crop was terminated, but was still standing. So we were getting some shading. As you can see, that was 3 feet off the ground. And there we're looking at 20 degrees difference. And I think, depending on who you ask, I think it's 105 degrees, 105, 110 is when they say the soil really, the activity really shuts down. So you can just see with the cover crops that we were definitely cooling the canopy. And again, later in the season, it didn't quite end up because we had ample moisture and it never seemed to go away. And then we started harvest and it still didn't go away. So here we are. There's a picture. This was taken the same time that we did the temp gun. We just dug up. This is side by side rows. Dug it up and you can just see on the right is with where we had the cover, just the difference in looking at the soil structure, and it wasn't gray and crumbly. We still had plenty of moisture, and you could see the active roots in there. It was astonishing at that point for how dry we were, because since we really started getting into the covers, we hadn't had that dry of a spring. So I was just curious to see what kind of benefits we would have. And once we got into harvest, this field was split 40 and 40. We did see a half bushel difference where the without cover ended up out yielding with the cover. I will be fully honest. I do think with the cover there were some parts of that field where there is some water issues. So that's just me just wishing that the cover crop obviously yielded higher than without the cover crop. But and these next pictures, this was after the rain. It was 2 days after. Pictures that Abigail Peterson sent me. These are fields. This was like 10 feet apart. And you can just see the difference in the water infiltration, in my opinion. Well, not just my opinion, clearly looking at the pictures. I mean, she is sunk there on the left, and on the right, you could walk all the way across. And when we were putting this presentation together, there's a picture that I took of myself walking out in the field where I just had a picture of the bottom of my shoe. And I think the first thing when we met, and she's like, why in the hell is there a picture of your shoe in this slate of pictures? I was like, well, I was just showing that the no-till and the cover crop, it was dry on my foot. And I quickly learned it, and I've learned as I've gone, not everybody cares. So I kind of got to do what I can with what I can. There's my fancy rig. I have a field down in southern Champaign County. We are spoiled. We're flat. We're black. It's very traditional. People, we're chiseling corn stalks. We're turning everything over. Everything is getting worked. And this farm happened to be on the north edge of Pasodum. In one of the corners, I had double planted the rye, and it was just enormous. And there's also some water issues, so there's plenty of moisture. And the rye just took off, and it started raining the day I planted it, so I never got it planted. And then whenever I went back, I pull into the field with this absolute beauty of a rig, and I'm just driving, and you can barely just see my head above the rye, and people are driving by, and they're looking they're driving by slow, like, what in the hell is wrong with this guy out here? And it's just, I laugh, and my dad is just, he's covering his head because he's very traditional. He can't believe we're doing this stuff, and it ended up being fine. The yields were good, but I can't imagine what the discussion was. Like, you should have seen this idiot out there, but it ended up working out just fine, and you know what? She's paid for, so that's all that matters. This was just one. I got in. A good friend of mine is an agronomist for a local co-op, and he wanted me to get in on we have a 2x2x2 setup on the big planter, and he wanted me to get in and try something, just what he was doing, and when he went into it, didn't know that I had the rye there, and so we got it out there, and we started looking at these maps, and like this was, I think it was 5 days after planting, and this was the same day that it was terminated, but 5 days after planting, and you can clearly see where the 15 acres of this mix went in, and it was fascinating following it all year. And I think the actual results without the rye, I think it was like 2.5 bushel difference. And so we just have been just geeking out talking about it, that what if it was the rye uptaking these nutrients, and then they late in the season, since I planted green, because this rye was right about boot stage and planted green and terminated, and then later in the season, if they took up all the nutrients and slow release later when maybe these bean plants were going for it, and so we've been cooking up what we're doing next year. But I just wanted to share again, $32. When he first told me how much it was going to cost, I about spit my drink out. I was like, $32 an acre, and then 6.5 bushel difference at $15. That we can guarantee that, but who knows? And I see Chris Ehler out here. He's probably very familiar. I could do this for probably 20 years in a row after this year, and I'll never see a single bushel difference. But this 1 year worked, so I got to keep trying it. That's right. That's right. It might never work again, but hey, that's right. I had my one, so that's why I just wanted to share, and it was pretty cool. It was a pretty nasty looking mix. The molasses based product was lovely shade of black. Dad was real pleased with the stuff that it left on the planter, but I cleaned it. And I just wanted to share because this is something I get into with people talking about with cover crops, that how can it's hard to justify that cost, because seed cost alone, looking at a standard rate of rye, even if you're just to go 40 pounds, you're still looking at $13, $14 an acre, and that doesn't include any sort of application. I just wanted to share some of these programs. Some provide money, some kind of all work hand in hand. The SHIP is it's a pilot program that I got in, and they all have it's all the same goal. It's all same conservation management, field health, all nutrient management. PCM was pretty interesting getting in with that, and Laura talking about it this morning. It all kind of worked with STAR, and STAR is nice. There's no money involved, but you fill out all the information, and they can give you the evaluation. And you might see driving around the countryside on a post, you'll see a STAR sign with your rating. And again, not everybody cares. But it is interesting to drive around and see, and you can tell, at least people are doing their best. This is just wanted to share. We have some yield data. I just went back to 18 because 18 is, everybody know, well, in our general area, it was just a monster bean crop. I mean, it was, we shattered a record by 12 bushel on our farm total for the farm average. And I just wanted to share because talking to someone like my dad or my uncles or neighboring farmers, whenever I said I was doing non-GMO, they go, well, the premium's great, but when you're taking that yield hit, it all kind of it averages out to where why deal with the weeds when you're not getting the yield? And this is nothing new. There's people in this room that have been growing non-GMO probably longer than I've been alive. I'm very well aware of that. But I just wanted to share, this was a pioneer plot that has the full lineup, and you just see that in 2018 in a high yielding environment, the non-GMO beans outpace the competition. So yield drag is a thing of the past, and it has been for a while.
So we know yield is a big conversation in non-GMO with a potential drag, even though with the premium, like Tony mentioned. So we grabbed some yields from this year. So we grabbed a couple different farmers that had plots and were willing to share their data with us. So overall, we see that conventional may not always be, whether that's the field it's on, whether that was the genetics for the field, whatever the situation would have been, but knowing that on average, they stay right in line with any other type of chemical E3 bean. So I think Vermilion County, I grabbed that data, and that is a full plot. Any seed company that wants to can put any seed in this gentleman's plot, and so he collects data and has been doing it for years. Like Tony said, probably longer than we've both been alive. He's been doing this. So we don't claim to know everything, but we just wanted to compile that data so that we could share it with you guys to have that to make a decision if you were interested in that non-GMO. So this is kind of where like my information kind of shines, because I don't know whoever's tried to Google non-GMO locations, but there is absolutely nothing out there. So if you are ever interested in non-GMO locations, it's really hard to find a avenue unless you have a good relationship with somebody who has that head knowledge. What I did learn in this, I was like, man, I really don't know anything except for East Central Illinois. What I learned is there's no other opportunities except really East Central Illinois that is very heavily saturated. So listed there, I mean, there's multiple there. I did not include everything. A lot of them that I didn't include were smaller co-ops that eventually go into ADM in Decatur or go into Bloomington, Cargill. So those are the two main processors that we have in our area that take those beans. I did include a couple Indiana locations in case you're closer to that border. I would tell you that your ADM Decatur or your Bloomington Cargill are going to be your best premium locations, but you probably have to drive to them and you probably need bins. So Premier Co-op's great. They have a lot of different locations, especially if you do not have bins to do that.
It's not up there, but Premier Co-op, it's the Rising Elevator in Sydney. And I believe Philo still takes them during harvest, but
Leverett?
I don't think so. I think it's just
Okay.
Rising.
Okay. Yeah, and you guys, and that's why I just listed these up here. If you're interested, you can definitely reach out to them and get more information. Was just trying to be inclusive here of anybody and everybody that will do it, depending on your location, as I know we're all from different areas around the state. I did learn there's two in Northern Illinois that are new. So FBN just bought I think they're leasing a location up in Reddick, and they are starting to buy, and then also Osterberg and Morris. So those are newer locations coming on the market that are looking for non-GMO beans. A lot of places are buying Overrun right now. I know Bloomington Cargill is, and ADM Decatur is, so they're usually in the market. I don't know about, I think Premier's actually in the market as well right now. So, and Schooler and up in Andres, or Piatone is also in the market. So Schooler, I believe, is a variety specific. The one thing, if you guys are looking at this, make sure you know what purity you are agreeing to. Every location has a different purity requirement, and your seed is a different purity sometimes. So that's the one thing when I've been working with producers, I just try and make sure they know that so they're not surprised if something happens on a delivery, reject, etc. I think Decatur is 99, Cargill's 99.5. Do you know what Premier is? I think it's 99.5. 99? Yeah. So those are different levels, and sometimes the premium you'll see that in the premium with the different purity levels.
And I'd said something about the non-GMO seed bean kind of situation. It's a harder grade. Those go to Mattoon for Clarkson.
Yeah.
They also take non-variety specific, and Cerro Gordo, Clarkson is all non-variety specific.
I listed the 52-week highs for each commodity month. So I listed nearby March 22, new crop 22, and new crop 23 because I think everybody should be aware of what's happening in 23. I've had a lot of farmers telling me that they wish they would have marketed out in 12. So I think 1272 looks good for a first sale. If that's your worst sale, probably a good place. So if anybody's been paying attention to the market, it's pretty much Brazil right now. Some numbers came out today on FC Stone, or Stone X, still getting used to that name change, of lower production in Brazil, and so everybody panicked and like, crap, I don't have my nearby needs covered, and so buying started happening. I will say that we've had 6 days of ups. I think the record is 8 in this type of movement, so would not be surprised if we saw some consolidating nearby at all. If you have old crop beans, $15 looks really nice.
But what if it goes to 16?
You had to have the farmer response. It's fine. I was going to sell beans last week, and my husband yelled at me, and I was like, I've made a whole $1. It's fine. If it would have gone the other way, I'm sure that conversation would have been lovely of, hey, why didn't you sell the beans? That is the fun part of marketing, is trying to outguess the market. Guess what? We're still making money at all of these levels. So that is the exciting part. So that is kind of what's driving the market. We are in a weather market. If anybody's been in a weather market, you know it can go down as fast as it went up. And that's pretty much it.